This game is rated MA 15+.
Bloodborne is an action role-playing game released in 2015 by the Japanese studio FromSoftware, who you may also recognize as the creators of the infamous Dark Souls series.
It takes place in a Victorian-era style city full of monsters, deranged citizens, hunters, and alien elements that would make H.P. Lovecraft proud. The game is set in a dark, gritty gothic world where a terrible disease runs rampant through the streets of Yharnam, turning anyone afflicted into bloodthirsty beasts. As a result, every night the citizens of Yharnam partake in the hunt to slay the beasts and save the city.
However, the citizens of Yharnam have become so bloodthirsty and so deranged because of the plague they carry that they now turn on anything they see, including you.
You are a hunter. Your job is to go into the world to slay beasts, find out how to stop the disease, and decipher what the story is trying to tell you with its very cryptic dialogue.
About the gods and their love. But do the gods love their creations?
As a hunter, you carry both right and left-handed weapons. In your right hand are your melee weapons known as trick weapons, which are capable of transforming between two different forms with the click of a button, each with their own moveset and playstyle, which means every melee weapon in the game actually counts as two weapons. Your left hand is used to wield hunter's tools, such as guns, torches,
And an extremely flimsy shield whose only real purpose is to be useless. Seriously, you only find one in the game, and once you sell it, you can't get it back.
A good amount of your time will be spent in an area called the Hunter's Dream, which acts as a safe zone for you to teleport to discovered checkpoints and spend your hard-earned blood echoes.
Blood echoes are the in-game currency used to purchase gear, materials, and weapons, similar to how in Dark Souls, you traded souls.
You can also use your blood echoes to level up your character and increase their weapon damage, health, and stamina. You also possess something called Insight. Insight is both a currency and a stat, which you can spend to purchase special materials or gear, but also serves as a narrative function. As you gain more insight, the world changes around you. An example is at 15 insight, some enemies gain bonus attacks. But if you go below 15, they lose those bonuses.
As a FromSoftware game, much of Bloodborne's gameplay and core mechanics are very reminiscent of the Dark Souls series.
You have a combat system with a lock-on feature, dodging, and health potions, and when you die, you have to go back and retrieve your lost blood echoes from where you died.
And you are going to die a lot.
What's different in that case, however, is that in Bloodborne, sometimes enemies will absorb your blood echoes, which means you not only have to find where you died, but you also have to kill the enemy that absorbed them. Where Bloodborne differs from Dark Souls, however, is in its focus on aggressive playstyles. Almost every melee weapon in the game can use a charged heavy attack that deals more damage, and some weapons will even send enemies flying. The game encourages this aggressive behavior through the rally system, where if you take damage, there is an opportunity for you to get it back by damaging enemies before time runs out.
It's likely FromSoftware added the shield just so they can say to players, "You're not in Dark Souls anymore, Shields won't save you this time.
Parrying is also different, but similar. Using your firearm can whittle down an opponent's health bar, as well as stagger some of them to give yourself a chance to escape. If timed right, your shot will stun them, allowing you to perform a visceral attack that deals a large amount of damage to the enemy. You can also perform visceral attacks on an enemy if you manage to hit them from behind with a charged attack. But be warned, as not all weapons have a charged attack, and some will only send them flying.
Now here are some tips and tricks for new players. Number 1. Use your Quicksilver bullets wisely. It is so easy to use up your supply of bullets without realizing how much you've actually used and how many you have left.
At one point, I had around 160 extra bullets to use, and after a few hours, I discovered I only had about 27 left. Your firearms are mainly for finishing off weaker enemies with little health left, and for parrying. So to recap, don't waste your bullets.
Number 2. There are 2 types of hidden damage in Bloodborne: Righteous and Serration.
Righteous deals extra damage against what the game calls enemies of the church, which are actually quite rare to find. Serration is definitely the better of the two, as it deals more damage to beasts, which are far more common.
If you do want to make use of these damage types in the game, it's better to search them up because the game itself doesn't tell you what weapons do what and which enemies are affected. So unfortunately, looking them up is the only real way to find out. Number 3. Be careful with your insight count. Insight actually has a side effect that the game does not make you aware about until you figure it out yourself or until you look it up online.
The higher your insight count, the less resistance you have to a status effect called Frenzy. Some enemies are capable of inflicting frenzy damage, which fills up a special bar. If it fills up, you suffer 75% damage to your health. Personally, it is better to keep the counter at or below 15 insight.
Bloodborne is a really entertaining game to play.
Its gameplay is engaging, and the story is spooky and mysterious. It's intriguing to know the story is inspired from Dracula, and the director, Hidetaka Miyazaki, enjoyed H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos of horror stories and applied those to the overall aesthetic of the game. The lore is incredibly deep, and if you spend enough time piecing the story together, you unravel an intricate, connected story that is worthy of FromSoftware's storytelling talent.
During the Game Awards 2015, Bloodborne was nominated for Game of the Year alongside Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, Fallout 4, and Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. It had also been nominated for Best Role-Playing Game and Best Art Direction. Although it's a bit of a shame it didn't get nominated for Best Soundtrack.
However, the game is rated for seniors. Not everyone would enjoy its punishing gameplay, especially since many gamers hear Dark Souls and think it's a hard game. There are aspects of the game that are unknown to the player unless they search it online, which isn't very appealing since some of these aspects are beneficial to the player, and since we don't know about them, it's hard to take advantage of those benefits.
And, despite the differences it may have, it is still very much like a Dark Souls game. And some people aren't interested in the Dark Souls series, mostly because when they hear Dark Souls, they think hard game. And for many, this is a big turn-off. Overall, this game is a masterpiece. I love its story and I love its gameplay, and though it may be similar to Dark Souls, it is enough to make it stand alone. So it is worthy of the praise it gets, and is worthy of an 8 out of 10.